Hello.
Hey, what's up? How are you? Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. How's it going?
Yeah, welcome to the Penalty Box Live, sponsored by Woodstock Inn and Brewery. Really, you got to send me some beer. I mean,
I'm just going to come see you. I'm going to just bring it and drop it at your house, and then I'm going to turn and leave, and it'll be the funniest thing ever.
Well, I invited you to karaoke next Friday night, so
I'm on a golf course. I'm on a golf course in Florida next Friday night. So.
All right. Well, welcome to the show. We're excited. We've got Chris Joyce on today to talk about Gusher, which is going to be cool. But first off, shots on goal.
You go. So, I went first last week.
All right, I am going to go first. So now Burger King and McDonald's are getting into the chicken sandwich wars. I don't know if you've seen this or not. Nope. But you've got Popeyes, you've got Chick-fil-A, but now you've got Burger King and McDonald's getting into this. And I will tell you, I ate one of the chicken sandwiches last week, hot, spicy chicken sandwich from McDonald's last week. And, I don't want to go all Portnoy and give it like a 0.2 but, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 5. I tell you quite honestly what it tasted like. The chicken sandwich, the chicken part of it was good. But they do you can get the buffalo sauce, for your nuggets. I don't know how, hey, I have little kids. Chris can probably, oh yeah, I eat at McDonald's too, unfortunately. But it kind of tasted like they took like a couple of packets of buffalo sauce and they put it in a bowl and that was it. And it had some weird funky sauce on it too. I don't even know what it was. But it was okay. And then KFC has a Nashville hot chicken sandwich and it's pretty good. So the chicken wars are heating up even more than everybody's getting into it. And, the price of chicken wings, I'm in the restaurant industry, the price of chicken wings have skyrocketed, which everybody's eating chicken wings. So the price of chicken breasts ought to be really cheap because they're killing all these chickens for their little legs and their little flappers. So, which by the way, I'm a drummy guy. None of these. I don't eat these. I don't like them. So you have a shot on goal today, sir.
Yeah, I'm sure Chris is going in the back room. What the hell have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, he's like, what the F word, man?
So my shot on goal is I saw this on The Hustle, which is awesome daily email that I get. Recently bought out by HubSpot, small world. There's a group of investors that are starting another basketball league of high schoolers, right? It's called the Overtime Media, starting up a league. They're gonna pay 30 or so high school kids, $100,000 minimum, plus carry their health insurance and all those kind of things. And it's being supported by some investors like Kevin Durant and Carmelo Anthony, but more importantly, it's getting a nod from the NBA. And so, really? The only problem is that they have to forego their college availability or eligibility for it, because that's still a thing, even though that's before the Supreme Court or something to that effect. But I think that this is good because there are some kids that are great basketball players that could have never, ever made it to college. And now that the NBA has that Kobe rule and LeBron rule that you can't come right out of high school anymore, I think this would be pretty good. So that's my shot on goal for the day, and it's a thumbs up for that.
I have one other shot on goal because I can just never have one. And you mentioned sports and to talk about leagues. So you've got FBS football, which is the Power Five and the Oklahoma States and Boston College and anyway. And then you've got FCS, which is the level below that, which are still technically D1. My son graduated from the University of Albany, and they're playing, and they just started their spring season. And it's interesting, you can't find it anywhere on TV.
No.
ESPN's not picked it up. It's hard to find scores. And I think there was a lot of talk about, so this is going to be kind of a two-pronged thing here, but there was a lot of talk about, will we support spring football? Will we support the XFL? Will we support, the XFL guys, they tried to play, and I think they actually started out pretty good. COVID hit, and just, this is kind of a Chris Joyce thing, but got kicked the XFL right in the balls, and he can talk about that. His son kicked his son in the balls once, but different story. But will we support spring football? And I think at a smaller level like the FCS, they're not. It's just not happening. The attendance isn't there.
Right.
But if it was big time FBS football, we probably would. But on a different level, the XFL and the CFL are in conversations about merging and having a little bigger footprint, up into Canada, down into the United States, and bringing the CFL, bringing the XFL back, which I would like to see. But because I like football, I want to watch it, but FCS football right now, it's just not on. Like if you want to watch UAlbany, where my son played, you've got to pay $9 to have Flow Sports and watch it online. And then it's a crapshoot. And is it working? Is it good? Is it not good? And so I'm an equal opportunity offender. I just want football year round all the time.
Sounds good to me.
Just bring it all the time. So we can't. I guess let's, unless you have something else.
I'm good.
But are you going to ride your Peloton today?
I am, and I'm going to try to do more than 7.5 miles. Because I have friends. I've had the Peloton for a week, and I have friends. I won't name any names that called me a wuss because all I did was 30 minutes.
Who would do that? Who would call you a complete wuss bag for only doing 30 minutes on your Peloton?
I don't know. You
are a freaking wuss bag though. If that's all, like it's a stationary bike. You can't do more than 30 minutes on a stationary bike.
Yeah, I want you to get on there for 30 minutes and see what your thoughts are.
Wes, stop calling Tim a wuss. So I'm gonna let you introduce our guest today.
Great. Well, our guest today, I'm very excited. This is a gentleman that I've followed on LinkedIn for a couple of years. I just loved his straightforward, no BS videos. Chris Joyce is the founder of 24 companies in the high-tech consumer goods, health, and manufacturing. His products have been sold in more than 11,000 stores, over 148 different countries. And his newest venture is a company called Gusher, which in my opinion will just it's a incubator, a startup company incubator on steroids. So without any further ado, welcome to the Penalty Box, Chris Joyce.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I got to tell you, when I got accused of kicking my son in the balls as a start off for an introduction, that was definitely the highlight of my day today. So
you're welcome. You're welcome.
That was just awesome.
I want to kick this off with the first shot on you of the day, I guess, and not shot in a bad way. But what did you learn?
Listen, as I told you, I'm married to an Irish redhead psychologist, so you can literally shoot all you want. It's nothing.
Anything. What did you learn from Bullseye software that you still apply today?
Yeah, literally, the targeting from the very beginning in terms of low-hanging fruit is insanely important. The vast majority of entrepreneurs, they always have an idea as to trying to make these huge moves and everything else. But in the beginning stages, it's kind of like a baby being born. You've got to keep that thing alive in any way that you can. And the vast majority of entrepreneurs, the vast majority of founders don't see a penny from square one in the beginning stages. So they have to figure out how to go ahead and generate revenue, that low-hanging fruit. So when you're talking about, target marketing or hitting it, from the very beginning, you can boil it down to what we call your vested interest market, the tightest market that you can go to in the beginning stages, because that's usually where you get those first sales and or first investors from. It's not like standard money. It's not like you're going up to a VC firm and saying, hey, can I have a check? And they give you a check. It doesn't work that way.
So you learned that from Bullseye software?
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
I did some research, and your first company, well, first of all, you went to NYC. Your brother Jim's a physicist.
He is a physicist, out of Berkeley. Berkeley, Cal Berkeley.
Right, yeah. And so you're right out of the gate, you're an underachiever. Right?
Yes, I'm the stupid one in the family. Thanks. I know that.
Right. So your first company was AAA Auto Text. Was it the precursor to the 900 numbers? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, basically what happened is ages ago, there used to be stuff, actually it's still around out there in terms of different variants of it. Right now you have dating sites like Match.com, you have eHarmony, all these different things. You have Bumble now, you know, female-oriented Tinder, you name it. Well, back then, a long time ago, what ended up happening, you had newspapers. And in newspapers, you had classified ads and ways to go about doing this. And so audio text is really nothing more than you have audio in the form of text, like content, kind of like what we're doing right now. But you would have paper call numbers. You would have systems that you would be able to call. You'd access it, and you would get paid for it. You get money in terms of actually charging them per minute. My first business actually wasn't that, though. It was actually a precursor to that. It was something called 540 Slam. And it was a wrestling hotline. I mean, it was a long time ago.
No. You don't understand what you've just done.
Listen, man. Listen, I was 17 walking around the boroughs of New York, attending NYU, putting flyers on cars. And the next month we had 50 grand in sales from doing that, from walking around and putting flyers on cars.
Well, let's run down this rabbit hole.
Sure.
So were you a wrestling guy that enjoyed, you know, WWF, whatever? Do you have
I grew up, I'm glad you said WWF, okay, not WWE.
I know the difference.
Listen, I grew up in the times of Jimmy Hart on cable, local cable in Dayton, Ohio. Okay, right. So, you know, where they would go to the Hera Arena. I don't even know how I'm pulling this out of my brain right now. And it was like, you know, I don't want to say the birthday because around a long time of that, but that's when it started really aggregating and becoming what it is today, you know? So, yeah.
Did you have a favorite wrestler growing up?
Ric Flair or Roddy Piper, babe.
Oh, yeah, look at it. He's blushing a little bit because he said it. You know,
I love it. I love it.
Wrestling all day. So yeah. I grew up, in Oklahoma when we moved here, it was Mid-South wrestling. And, you know, we had Ted DiBiase back in the day when he was good. Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Hacksaw.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could literally talk. You know, I one of my least favorite wrestlers of all time was Coco Beware, because I always hated the whole like, what?
Yeah.
It was so stupid, but yet he would win. I'm like, why is this even happening?
It's a story.
Speaking of stupid, you're, I think, maybe an Eagles fan. I think because I've seen you sideline and
listen. I'm married, as I said, to an Irish clan. All right, here that they eat, breathe, and live and poop. You know, Phillies and Eagles green. So yeah, definitely they've had it for decades, and all they do is go to everything. They're the type that flies to games in other cities.
So do you have a favorite Eagle player or two for you?
Whatever is winning that day, I will jump on the bandwagon and say. So no, I can't say who I like, or I will be assaulted.
That's awesome.
So 20 years ago, when you met Stacy at a TGIF, what did you have for dinner that night?
We didn't. I literally met her at a TGI Fridays off of 42 heading towards Atlantic City. And we literally was like love at first sight, and we got out of there, and we ended up going to Ocean City to go ahead and hang out for the day. And we ended up going to another restaurant, and I think I had chicken, but who the hell knows? But we ended up spending a whole day together. Yeah,
that's cool.
It is.
COVID has obviously changed your life. It's changed a lot of people. You're working from home.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on what happens over the next 60, 90 days? What do you think's going to happen countrywide?
Well, hear me out. I just got back from a trip where I drove from Philly to New Orleans, Mississippi.
I have that written down. Gusher.
Let me tell you something. It's a different world than the Northeast. Yeah. Stuff is much more open. I think they stopped masks down there. For my experience that I saw, everything was coming back full tilt, or it was already operating full tilt other than the mask. So do I think stuff is coming back? Yeah, I am hoping that New York bounces back pretty damn quickly because we want to open up an office there soon. So absolutely.
So let's talk about it.
Shoot.
Tell us where you got the name Gusher.
Sure.
How Gusher is different. I'll tell you, in my opinion, it is brilliant. How it's different than VC funding and angel funding and all that kind of stuff. So tell us all about it. I think it's a great story.
Sure. Well, I mean, the name itself actually, and listen, I'm going to hit people's, most people won't remember this type of stuff. All right. But there was a scene from a movie that I found very evocative that I felt summed up a lot of stuff. And it was a movie called Giant with James Dean in it. And when he hit oil, this guy coming from nothing that was literally wildcatting. He was out, in the plains of Texas, just putting holes in the ground, hoping to hit it big. And he hit it big. And he literally, and I don't know if you can see it, I'm getting goosebumps from telling the story. Wow. Because when I saw that, I got goosebumps. And I'm like, okay, well, when you're naming a company, most people don't really do this. It should be primarily an evocative name. It should, first of all, be 3 syllables or less, evocative name. And I just felt that was something that we could run with, and it could end up becoming a verb, which is where it's going right now as we're growing. So that's the naming aspect of it. But the idea itself actually had birth from the time I was a kid and seeing my mom, who was a low-level government secretary in Ohio, in the middle of Dayton, Ohio, stuck in a bad job and a bad marriage, but she had brilliant ideas, and they literally, she could never tap them. She could never actually turn them into reality. There was no such thing as venture capital ecosystems. There was no such thing as women VC funds. There was no support structures or anything else. And even today, there's few and far between, other than 3 geographic areas. If you're talking like San Fran, New York, and Israel, the vast majority of the world still doesn't have a lot of this stuff out there to be able to support entrepreneurs. So that was where the real original, hey, oh my God, there's got to be a better way of doing this. Now, when I did go to NYU and I started doing my own businesses, I never needed money. I never needed anybody to go ahead and cut a check in the beginning stages. I was always able to do what I call finagle it. So if I needed a patent filing, well, I'd convince a patent attorney to take 0.5%, 1%. If I needed manufacturing, I would convince the manufacturer to come into the deal or give extended credit terms so that it acted as a bank. If I needed real estate, I can't remember the last time I actually paid real estate rent. I would actually bring in the owner of that real estate into the deal. And you can do it with anything. So a couple of years ago, I was starting to look at, primarily founders and what they're running into. And the vast majority of founders, of entrepreneurs, will never, ever see cent one a formal capital raise. Only about 1 in 700. So what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to go ahead and get your deal off the ground other than grinding it out, one person at a time and hoping that maybe you hit something in the future and have it happen? Well, what I decided to do, and I actually have the date because it's on our patent filings, is say, okay, there should be a better way here, all right? A way where people can come into performance-based equity, something I've been doing for a long time, and see if people would join these companies in exchange for equity in the beginning stages to bypass the need for that money. Because your money in the beginning stages is spent on what, guys? What's the number one thing that money is spent on, even if you get a VC check?
People.
Right, people. All right. So if you go ahead and have those people to begin with that are rowing in the same direction, that share that same vision, stuff gets done anyway. Okay. So can they pay the rent on it? No. But can you launch a company on it? Yes. So people join companies in exchange for performance-based equity. Nobody gets a damn thing unless the company is able to achieve its goals, including us. We're a performance-based equity player. And so it allows anyone from anywhere to start a company and have a great chance of doing it. And we've got greater than an 80% success rate as of right now. So it's pretty damn cool.
How many companies are you? I know, in some of the research I've done, it was started off small, but you're involved in how many companies right now?
Right now, we've got a couple hundred. By the end of this year, based upon our growth rate, we'll have a couple thousand. And by the end of the following year, we should be around 25, 30,000, depending upon how it grows. So what we created Gusher was really just to be a mass assembly of these companies without the use of money. But what ends up happening is the majority of these companies end up either becoming self-sustaining and or attracting larger scale capital. And it's a lot easier to attract capital when you've got the team, when you've got something functional. I've got a baseball in front of me. If your concept was a baseball, well, it's a lot easier to get money when you actually have that baseball made, when you have the pen made, when you have that software made in some way. And people don't realize that investors don't come in at the ideation stage. They come in at the traction stage, the vast majority of them, 99.999% of them.
So you don't have to have I'm sorry. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, what's your long-term goal with Gusher? Is it to take it public? Is it to sell it? What I mean, do you have a thought for that?
It's going to sound cheesy. Listen, I've got gray hair at this stage. I got a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 7-year-old. This is truly what I fundamentally believe, and it's. I'm not a tree hugger, but this is what I'm going to say: to untap as much human potential as possible. That's what this is about. So, yes, it's a platform to launch companies. Yes, it goes ahead and it helps these people that don't have a shot in hell of bringing their idea to life. But really, talent is spread evenly. Opportunity isn't. That's really what we're solving. It's to untap as much human potential as possible, whether in Boston or whether they're in Oklahoma or Ohio or Nigeria or South Africa or Eastern Europe or South America. We've got deals everywhere.
Now, I think you have an office in Russia. Is that
right? Krasnodar, yes. And believe it or not, we gushered Gusher. So we drank our own Kool-Aid. And so when the concept was there, I have certain partners that we were like, okay, we can fund this. We can take an investment round just to bond the people that we know. Yep. And we chose fundamentally to Gusher. We said we can't, do as I say, not as I do philosophy. And so we gushered Gusher. And yeah, we have a great team member in Krasnodar, Russia. It's not a full office. It's a couple people.
Cool. Well, Tim, you were going to ask a question. I could run right down a rabbit hole. So go ahead.
No. This is still about Gusher. The people that you bring on, and I was intrigued because I'm partnering a couple of other companies, and my in was equity, right? So I own an ad agency in north of Boston, and we bring to the table to these other two companies that I'm involved with all of the marketing expertise, those kind of things. So when you have a certain ramp up time, and even with Gusher itself, does that equity stay forever, or does it dissipate over a period of time?
Yeah, this is a great question. Okay, so a couple things, and it's going to be a roundabout way of answering. It may get a little bit technical, and if I get too technical, yell at me, but I'll try to answer it in a quick way because it's a show, okay?
Do we just yell squirrel?
Yeah, well, I'll cover that if you want, but I thought Wes was going to be here. I was going to use that as a whole lead-in for something else.
That's okay.
I can't do now. All right, but anyway, equity is fluid. Okay, so think of it this way. If you have a company, a corporation, okay, you have something called your authorized shares and your issued shares. So I'm not going to go into the explanations of them too much, but at any point in time when people are granted that equity, so let's say it's a CMO or something like that, and they're coming on for 2% equity or 3% equity. Well, when the company is able to achieve its goals, it launches. On that day, they're getting 3% equity in that company. Does that mean that the company can't issue additional shares or can't bring on additional investors? No, they have to. I mean, it's kind of like saying, okay, your baby just reached year 1. We're now keeping it on a 600-calorie diet. It just doesn't work. The baby's got to be fed. So the whole point is that you have up rounds, hopefully, where the company grows and you may have a smaller percentage of it. You may get diluted, but you're having a smaller slice of a bigger pie. And that's what the gist is. Now, here's what happens a lot of times. A lot of times the companies, it's not a lot, but about 15-20% of the companies now, they get a team before they reach development stage. They're now getting investors. And so what happens is the equity all happens at one time so that the dilution doesn't happen. Okay. But a lot of times it comes in stages. But again, what usually ends up happening, that's for that first period of time. And then usually the team figures out how the compensation is going to be in the future. So either they're generating revenue, at which point they share in it in some way and they determine salaries. They're able to get investor capital in some way. At each point, usually it's discounted salaries for a period of time until they hit certain milestones. It's fluid. There's no one way or another. There's 1,000 ways to skin a business, especially startups,
No doubt. Eric?
You had said just a few minutes ago said we drank our own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I had Wes put your link to your LinkedIn down here, which is Deal Rules, which is, by the way, where you can find him on Twitter as well. You do a pretty good job of 2 to 3 minute, this shit's in your face.
Sure.
And the two, and I watched quite a few of them over the last week, and two that jumped out to me. One, and I wrote it down: drink your own Kool-Aid.
Yep.
Because I think there are a lot of people in business that kind of they're not half-ass or about 70% ass. They don't go all in and drink their own Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And the other one that I love you talked about is when you're starting out, you said do the stuff that's not scalable.
Absolutely.
Because from a business standpoint, we hear all the time scalable. And I think people think that, but those it's the precursors to that, right?
Yep.
And then I also, before I forget, I want to ask you mentioned you had a baseball, and I have one sitting here as well on my desk, and there's meaning behind it. Before you answer, is there meaning behind the baseball you have sitting there?
Yeah, this is what I do. I stick it behind my back so I sit up straight and I don't have a compressed spine. That's about it.
That's disgusting.
That's the same as Eric.
Well, I caught this one on the Green Monster at Fenway Park, so that's totally different.
That's awesome. That's a great
anyway, go ahead. So talk about drink your own Kool-Aid and do the stuff that's not scalable.
Here's the thing. Drinking your own Kool-Aid is a tough thing to do. It's not easy, all right? It's kind of like the whole do as I say, not as I do bit. The second that you commit to drinking your own Kool-Aid, it comes down to and I did some background on you guys too. One of you were talking about faking it till you make it and how that wasn't the right way to do it, okay? It ties to that, okay? Because when you drink your own Kool-Aid, it's almost impossible not to be authentic. You can't fake it till you make it. But what ends up happening is that discomfort. I'm getting goosebumps again, all right? That discomfort.
Is it really cold? Can you not afford your electric bill?
No, I mean, it's actually 80 degrees in this room.
He's gushering his heat.
It was 20 degrees yesterday. But the reason is that whole fake it till you make it and drinking your own Kool-Aid is very tied into each other, okay? Because when you drink your own Kool-Aid, you've got to be authentic. And what ends up happening is the following, okay? You actually attract the people that you're supposed to attract. You attract the team members that you're supposed to attract when you don't pretend that you know everything and you don't have all the answers. You attract the customers, the right customers in the beginning stages when you're like, okay, we're just two people in a garage or we're working from our homes doing this to make this happen, and you're telling your authentic story because there's people that actually is what attracts them. And so in the beginning stages, it's hard because people say, and I had a conversation with a founder earlier today, he was having, oh God, what's it called, where you have this imposter syndrome. And he's about to go ahead and give a talk, and imposter syndrome and all this bullshit. And I'm like, listen, I go, the fact of the matter is you know your deal better than anybody else in the world. You're sincere about it. You're not faking anything. It's just uncomfortable in the beginning stages being 100% honest. You know, it just is, especially in a business perspective. It's rough stuff. You know, it's not easy. Now, the not scalable part, that's probably the most insanely important thing, but it comes down to not just business, it's everything in life, okay? There's something I call the ugly, smalls, mediums, bigs. Whenever you start out something, whether it's here, you guys are doing this, you're creating content, you're doing a show, in the beginning stages, the uglies, you're figuring out it doesn't seem right, things are kind of not flowing, whatever it may be. Then the smalls happen. You get a little win. You get to first base. Something happens there that you're like, maybe this can be something. Then the mediums come in. You start getting product. You standardize here. That's where most people get stuck, all right, if they're able to get to that stage. Because it's hard to give up the mediums to then get the bigs. And so, when it comes to not scalable stuff, little stuff like sending thank you notes, making it by hand, that's not small stuff. That's literally everything in the beginning stages. Talking to people face to face, on video now, but you don't do it via email. You don't do it via text. You literally make the effort and go see somebody if you need something from them, or at least get them on a video. Those little things actually are the fuel, are the lubricant for the stuff that allows you to scale. You don't just figure out scaling. That is the process to scaling, the not scalable stuff.
Yeah. We had Adrian Salisbury on here a couple of weeks back from Ecamm Live, and you mentioned attracting the right people. And I've now taken it as my own that I came up with this, but it was actually Adrian was one that said your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yep.
And I love that. Everything you just said, like I said, that you gave me not quite goosebumps, but they're on the verge. If you'd gone maybe a minute or two longer, maybe we'd gotten there. But
sure.
Anybody that's on LinkedIn needs to follow you, because
thank you.
Those little 2-3 minute blasts of it's a kick in the nuts most of the time.
Yeah,
right?
But hear me out even on that, okay? Like that was something that I did kicking and screaming. All right, hear me out.
Really?
That thank you note, I keep this on my desk for a reason. This was a recent one. I literally got a thank you note. This was about 2 years ago, right? And the thank you note was from a company, and it was from a company that ended up turning beforehand. I had another thank you note. They ended up turning into literally a unicorn. All right. They sent me a thank you note. I helped them out a little bit, and literally they sent me stickers and a thank you card and everything else. And I got another thank you note from another company. And I said to my partner, I go, it's amazing. Anybody that sends me a thank you note ends up becoming a unicorn, or like in passing. And he's like, you should make a video on that. I'm like, nah, screw that. Don't do that. I put it up on LinkedIn, just off cuff, not really planning it. The next day we got a deal out of it. I was like, So I said another one the following week. Next day, we got a deal or two out of it. I kept doing that. And I'm like, suddenly I ended up having all these VCs following me, about 40 to 50% of the VC market. I started having all these high net worth, all these family offices, about 40% of the family offices. I ended up getting invited to speak at all these events and everything else. And it became something that literally sitting there and saying, all right, this video here, it's not scalable. It led to a lot of stuff that ended up being 10 and 100x fold. So that's the type of thing that you got to listen to the signs of the universe, not to get all touchy feely, but you got to.
Oh, we can talk all day about that. I'm listening to The Science of Getting Rich right now. And you mentioned universe. Look, you're not getting shit from me and Tim. So if you don't hold out, wait for that. So I'm just.
I hear you. No problem.
I don't know. Tim's like, wait, what? I'm not.
I was halfway through my thank you note. I'm sorry.
But can I do what I was going to do if Wes was here? Because
sure.
I planned this out. I was going to say, guys, you've got these awesome backgrounds. Thank you. So I was going to say, you've got these awesome backgrounds, and I feel like very insecure. And now my whole setup is gone. And so what I was going to do is I was going to take my magical tape here, right? Bear with me just a second. And I was going to improve my background because I really did a little bit of stuff there.
Oh, baby.
And I was going to put Brittany over my squirrel video because
the funniest thing is I was going to just ask you about Britney Spears. And you know what?
Awesome.
This show's over. You've literally won the internet today.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Dude, I was like just praying that I had ink in a printer to print that because I was like, I was going to figure a screen up there and press a button then. If not.
So you're gonna throw that out there. I mean, do you know anyone that might jump off the stage?
Now, here's the funny thing. I may know someone that knows because I knew a funder that funded something entertainment that she did. I'm gonna reach out. All right, I'm gonna see. I can't promise. I cannot promise.
Well, look, that you just won the internet, so he's probably screenshotted that with you, and it's probably on his vision board right now.
No, what he's saying to all his friends, I met Britney Spears' dad.
That's awesome.
Well, look, we are at 30 minutes, and we usually wrap this up. I want to get you on the OT and talk a little more, but before you get out of here, I want to ask you a question. What are you insecure about?
What am I insecure about? What am I actually really insecure about? I get angry, guys. I get insanely angry, and I don't know if that's necessarily an insecure thing or just a character flaw, but I think we all have character flaws. And the fact of the matter is, listening to your character flaws is one thing. Trying to correct them is another. Trying to make them go disappear, it's rough to do. I've tried time and time again. I get very intense about what I do, and I don't like to screw around about it. I know that's one of those kind of insincere things about what you're insecure about, but it really is. My anger is like my number one thing.
No, I think that's pretty honest, to be honest with you.
But it's good fuel.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to get out of here. We're going to get you on the OT and record a little more that will drop on Friday.
Sure.
Next week, Tulsa World sports columnist, longtime sports columnist Bill Haston will be on with me. Tim will be gone. So Bill will be on, and we'll talk sports, and he's got a lot of great stories, I'm sure. So we're going to do that. Chris, you've been awesome. I guess maybe to tease this, when we get, I want to ask you about a Moscow Mule and Elmo. So we'll talk about that.
Come on.
We'll talk about that on the OT. But Tim, thank you. This has been fun. Woodstock Inn and Brewery. And as always, I guess be incredible, and we'll see you Friday.
You have to do
Can I do that?
Yep.